Gotta wait for the sun to go down a little bit so that lighting is not blowing everything out and distorting colors. Right now in this video, my face is like 7 different shades. So, to let Mother Nature have her way and wait patiently for some better lighting.
Hello everyone. This is a bit of a travel segment in the sense that I traveled today and I'm up relatively late during a work trip. Meetings tomorrow. I did a road trip to get here today and we'll be out most of the day tomorrow. I took a nap when I got here. I needed a nap. Been struggling lately with not a lot of energy and just not being in the best mood, not feeling like myself. So by the time my driving was done today, I needed a nap, so I took one. I am normally a pretty upbeat, energetic person, so when I have long periods of stress, it starts to catch up with me. And I can tell that it's caught up with me. So I'm trying to be kind to myself, as friends and family keep reminding me. Got to be a little more gentle on the body. And I'm using knitting quite a bit to help with that. Case in point, I'm working on a sweater. In my last episode, I talked about being ready for garment knitting. I've knit a lot of shawls so far this year as part of the Shawl Society with Helen Stewart, and just knitting along with Shelley and finding some good patterns and great yarns. And I've been wanting to do a garment for a while, and I finally just let the bug bite me. And I cast on the Breathing Space sweater by Vera Valimaki, which is what I'm working on right now. This sweater is a pullover. It's a 3/4 sleeve pullover with stripes, and I'm making mine in gray and white, which are also called Sketchbook and Winter. That winter's gonna get blown out. That's Sketchbook, and that's Winter. From Sweet Fiber, which is a Canadian indie dyer. So soft. This is my first project working with this yarn, but I've been in love with it since it showed up in my mailbox. Actually, that's not true. I've been in love with it since I saw it on the screen and ordered it. So many great colors, but I went with some neutrals, and I'm glad I did. I feel like this is going to be very wearable. The only issue is that I knit continental, so I pick, some people call that picking, where I carry the yarn in my left hand, and that gives me somewhat of a looser tension than throwing or Western knitting. So my gauge doesn't match the pattern gauge, and that has meant a lot of math in order to make sure that I get this sweater sizing right. And it's actually at this point causing me to have to knit some extra rows to get the length that I need. My real gauge is pretty far off what the pattern recommends by a couple of stitches, and my stitch gauge is not as far off, but it doesn't quite match. So I'm having to knit a much larger size according to the pattern directions to achieve the size that I need to fit me. It's a raglan sweater, so you can see raglan shoulder increases there, which is good because I can put it onto a long circular needle or 2 circular needles and try it on, which I have done so far, to see where it's falling on the front, back, and shoulder sections. I think that I'm going to have to increase the sleeve width a little bit, so I may have to do extra stitches for the sleeves, I'll worry about that when I get there, though. Right now, I'm just trying to make sure that the first portion of the body fits me properly, and the way that striping works in the sweater, which you'll see here. I'm going to begin short rows soon for that second lower portion of the body striping. And I want to make sure that once I'm at that point, I have the right stitch count, but I also want to make sure I have the right length. So math and numbers and calculations and stitch counting and everything else that's often involved in garment knitting, but it makes it worth it because then it will fit me. So that's one of my current projects. My daughter really likes this pattern as well, and I plan to knit one for her. I will probably do hers in a worsted weight yarn, which will still require some calculations, but I have a feeling that I'll be able to get gauge in a worsted weight and then be able to follow the pattern pretty much as written. So I'm going to try that out with a different yarn and some other colors that she's going to pick out. Good morning. Just starting with my first cup of some tea, mint tea from hotel room service. Pretty good. I will very soon have to launch into my workday, but today is the first day of a make-along that I'm part of called the Pigskin Party. It's being run by the Down Cellar Studio podcast and the host of the Down Cellar Studio podcast. And today is September 8th, and it's the cast-on day. This is a make-along that sort of tracks along with the football season, the U.S. Football season, not football as in soccer. So the Pigskin Party is a way for a bunch of people to earn points by making projects during the 5-month period from September to February, leading up to the Super Bowl, which is the sort of grand finale. And there's lots of different ways to earn points. You can draft your friends to be part of it. You can earn points by knitting yardage, which is, I think, probably the major way to earn points. And those points accumulate towards prize entries. And you know, we all are motivated by lovely fibery prizes. So yeah, I've got a lot of make-alongs that I'm participating in right now. Well, I say a lot, a few. The Transitions Make-Along that I'm co-hosting with Piper Nell, which runs through November 2nd. And the Pigskin Party I'm participating in. And I've also got a Simple Sweater Knit-Along. Excuse me. The Simple Sweater Knit-Along is being run in the BrownBerry Chronicles podcast group. And that one is very basic. It's just anyone who is working on or would like to work on a sweater is welcome to join. And it's going to run through December 31st, so through the end of this year, 2016. I just have been wanting to make a garment. I showed you my breathing space sweater that I'm working on. So everything's better with company. So I just kind of put a call out in the BrownBerry Chronicles Ravelry group podcast thread for anyone else who wanted to work on a sweater and have some encouragement along the way. So that includes you, if you'd like to join us. No prizes, no rules. The only qualification is that you're working on a sweater. So yeah, if you look for the Simple Sweater Cal thread on the BrownBerry Chronicles podcast Ravelry group, come join us. We'd love to have you. But since the Pigskin Party cast on official date is today, I'm going to start, shocker, another shawl. The 4th shawl in the Shawl Society has been released. It's called Quill. And that's by Helen Stewart, who is Hell's Bells on Ravelry, and she's Curious Handmade most other places on the interwebs. So I'm going to cast on for that today and make that one of my larger yardage items for the pigskin party. And I brought that along with me on my travels because I just wanted to get it started today. And I'm using 3 colors. It's a 3-color shawl. I'll insert a picture from the pattern right here. So in the last episode, when I had plans for making this shawl, I had chosen 3 colors and was pretty happy with that choice. Sorry, just trying to fix some lighting here. I was pretty happy with my choice at the time. I really loved working with the Barocco yarn in the previous shawl, and I was going to go with that again, but changed my mind. Each time the shawl patterns come out for the Shawl Society, a lot of us who've made previous yarn decisions end up modifying them once we've seen the whole thing, because we only get little sort of teasers about what the shawl is going to look like and information about what yarn might work well. So once you actually see the whole thing and you see the colors in the samples, sometimes you change your mind. So I did. I'm going to use this 3-color palette. So the shawl, as you saw, has striping with a lighter and a darker yarn, and that will be these 2 in mine, a dark gray and a light gray. This is Barocco Fiora. It's a really nice blended yarn. This one, the darker kind of charcoaly gray, is Madeline Tosh Sport. And then my pop color, or my sort of contrasting color, and the color that will be for the lace is this one. So that is Barocco Cosma in kind of a pale greenish blue color. And I really like the 3 of them together. I think they're going to look really great in this shawl. It's a fairly simple construction, so I'm looking forward to just some easy knitting and being able to create shawl number 4 out of 6. We're past the halfway mark now. So that's what I'll be working on. I'm going to cast on this morning before I have to go be a corporate citizen and be a good employee. I'm just going to get that started as my pigskin party cast on. I hope you guys are enjoying a good morning so far, and I'll see you in the next segment. Hello again. I'm sure you will have noticed that my background has changed a little. I'm home. I returned home from my work trip a couple days ago, and back in my quiet country estate. I was just getting ready to dig into some projects, and I thought I would share with you guys what I'm doing this weekend. I call it the WIP Wrestling Weekend. I call any weekend that when I dive into my works in progress, and I currently have 5 of them on the needles. So I'm going to share those with you, talk through it a little bit. One of those 5, I'm considering frogging it, which is my Waiting for Rain shawl. I love that pattern so much, but I think I need to make a different yarn choice. I've been knitting on it, and then I kind of put it away for a while, so I'm not sure that I made the right pattern and yarn combination there. So I may frog it and use that yarn for something else and pick another pairing of yarns for Waiting for Rain. So I won't be showing that one, but I will give you a peek at the others. You saw this already earlier in the episode, and I'm just showing it because it happens to be one of the works in progress, but I made a little more progress on it. It's my Breathing Space sweater by Vera Valmaki. This sweater is being knit in Sweet Fiber, Sweet Merino Light, and I'm just about at the part where I'm going to divide the body and the sleeves. So it's a raglan sleeve construction. And I've had to knit a few extra stripes in this section in order to get it to fit me. It needs to be a little longer because my row gauge is not the same as in the pattern. I think I mentioned that. So yeah, I'm only showing this because this is one of the things that I will be tackling this weekend. And continuing my shawl obsession, shawl number 4 has been released in the Shawl Society series of patterns. So Quill is shawl number 4, and it's a 3-color shawl. It's intended to have several stripes where you insert kind of a pop color and accent color. And I've chosen 3 colors that I showed you earlier, and I cast on this week as part of the Down Cellar Studio podcast Pigskin Party. So here is my progress so far. I love how these colors are knitting up together. I love that the dark gray and light gray really, they do complement each other well, even though it's 2 different yarns. And once I got to the first point where I was able to put in my stripe of pale teal, I was really happy that I made this 3-color combination choice. So I intend to knit a few stripes on that this weekend. Very simple pattern. I'm even carrying my yarn up the side. There are different tutorials on YouTube and other places on how best to do that, because in some cases you have maybe 6 or 8 rows where you need to bring in the accent color and then restart with one of the main colors. So it's just easier to carry it up the side than to keep cutting the yarn, at least in my opinion. It's easier than cutting the yarn and weaving in a lot of ends later on. So I'm going to keep trying to do that as neatly as possible on the shawl edge. I don't mind that the color shows a little bit. This edging is going to be behind my neck in most cases anyway, so not that concerned about it as long as it's done in a tidy way. If you guys have some suggestions about how best to carry yarn when you're striping like this, share that information, because I'm sure other folks would love to hear tips and tricks. As part of the Pigskin Party knit along and just wanting to have a few different options on the needles, I also cast on for a pair of socks. I'm using Briggs & Little Sport Weight yarn, and I'll show you a picture of this sock with the names of the yarn colorways. This yarn is a wool yarn with some nylon content. It's a little, it's a little scratchy kind of new wool feel, but I love it. I am a fan. I don't find it uncomfortable against my skin. I really like how it feels in my hands when I'm knitting it. And I wanted something simple on the needles that I could just pick up and go. So I went with a garter rib stitch from my Sensational Knitted Socks book. That's a book I've had for a long time by Charlene Church, and I thought a simple contrast between the 2 colors will make it interesting, and then a pattern that I can knit without needing to tote the book around with me would work well. And that's this garter rib. Oh, make sure you can see the stitching here. So the garter rib is a 2-row pattern repeat. Very simple, just garter stitches in between regular ribbing. One of the reasons I chose the garter rib pattern is because I'm still trying to find that perfect fit. Any of you who knit socks know that you want them to be somewhat snug and you want them to feel really comfortable on your feet. It's nice to have a pattern sometimes too, because that's just pretty to look at. But I've been working on what stitch count, what needle size, and what kind of patterning will work best to fit my feet in particular. And it's taken some trial and error. I've knit some socks that end up baggy and loose, which is okay, because that means my husband gets another pair in his sock drawer. But I want to get to the point where I can just cast on for a pair of socks and, really estimate my gauge and just go. Cast on and go. So this time I actually cast on 52 stitches because this is a sport weight yarn. It's a little heavier, so I didn't cast on my normal 64 stitches. and I'm doing the garter rib so that there's a little bit of stretch and negative ease built into the pattern. So we'll see how this goes. I've tried it on a couple of times. Circular needles allow you to do that, and it fits nicely around my leg so far. I don't have any trouble with fit around my heel or any special need to do something for arches. I know some folks have to account for a high arch or a different heel cup. I feel fortunate that most of that has seemed to work out fine on my socks, even with different heel types. So I'm going to do a slip stitch heel and gusset on this pair. One last project that is not yet on my needles, but I do plan to make it, is one of the hat patterns that was recently released by Woolly Wormhead. You can probably search Woolly Wormhead as a hashtag and my podcast will come up. That's how much I talk about her and her hat designs. She's recently released a hat called Pinois. I hope I'm saying that right. I'll give the information for it, of course. And I love the texture and the design in this hat. So there are a few of us in the Woolly Wormhead group on Ravelry who have decided to knit along together on this new hat. And I've chosen a sport weight yarn from my stash. This is Cascade Venezia Sport, and it's in this deep wine color. It's showing up a little brighter red than it actually is, but it's almost a burgundy color. And this is a sport weight blended yarn, which I think will drape really nicely in a hat like Pinois. I think a little bit of slouch will actually look really good. So I'm looking forward to working with it. I haven't worked with this yarn before. It's souvenir yarn that I picked up on a trip. It is a little slippery, so I probably have to play around with the needles that I use. Most likely I'll use some wooden Knit Picks needles. And my gauge, I'm not so concerned. I'll probably just pick a size in the pattern and go for it. My gauge doesn't often match the intended gauge in many patterns because I knit continental and that tends to be a little bit loose. The benefit is that when you're making a hat, if it doesn't fit you, it's going to fit somebody. So I'm not too concerned about it. Yeah, so when I actually get this on the needles, I'll share that with you guys online. So that's what's on my needles this week. Particularly this weekend, I'll be working on some of those works in progress. Please be sure to come over to the BrownBerry Chronicles Ravelry group. We have a couple of make-alongs going on over there. Of course, the Transitions make-along. And I've started a very simple sweater knit-along. So hopefully you have projects planned or already on the needles that could fit into either one of those. I recommend the Downseller Studios podcast Pigskin Party as well. That's a huge group of folks who are knitting along and making along over there. It seems like a lot of fun, very judgment-free zone, and everybody's having fun working on things this fall. So share with me, as usual, what you're working on. I love to hear that. It's great connecting with you. I really appreciate all the positivity and support. It just encourages me more than I can say. And I really appreciate you coming by to check out the podcast as well. I hope you found something interesting here. Maybe you got inspired to cast something on. Either way, feel free to subscribe or like this video or both. And yeah, let me know what you're up to. I'd love to hear it. I hope you have a good week. Bye.